all of them, but believe me, we both review thousands of CVs, and most of the time there's some mistakes. They are not complete. The information on personal data is not accurate or not actual. They write a CV to Google saying, I want to apply to Hewlett Packard because, this kind of thing shouldn't happen. So take the time to prepare your CV. Look how that is complete, that everything is clearly formatted and easy to read, and have somebody else checking on what you're doing, because after a while, when you work on it, you're probably not going to be able to see it with the necessary distance. And you also want to try, when you've completed your work, try to look it from the other point of view. So you complete the work on your CV, and then you want to get in my shoes and think, I am the recruiter looking at this CV, and I am going to receive probably 100 CV in a given day. How do I react when I see yours? What is stand out? What do I see in the first 2 seconds? What do I see in 5 minutes if I can dedicate so much time to read it? Clearly, the basic point is this: complete, well formatted, and put only the information that is relevant to the job. It doesn't help if you write the story of your life, if you put 10 pages, if you put all the academic record since the beginning of your studies. Typically, although there are very different formats for writing CVs, you should follow 4 main areas and cover them all, and then you're already half of the way through to a good CV. You want to put your contact data, very simple but fundamental. You want to put your email, your current address, your telephone number with international code number in case you apply to another country or people are not familiar with your local area, and so on. If you have a preferred contact, a mobile, list it, explain it. According then to the country, you might want to put your age or picture. In general, for international companies, especially for American companies, don't put those information because they might be seen as a possible discrimination point. We don't really want to know when you were born or how you look like, or actually for recruiting you, we don't even want to know what your nationality is. That's important, of course, for visa eventually point of view. So that's an element that normally is in the CV, but in some countries actually it's even forbidden to look at this data. Definitely we don't want to know about your personal status or your religion or anything like this. You want to make sure your academic background is well listed and complete, and it's explained. If there are periods in which you were neither working or studying, you want to probably write something about it. Just don't leave years incompleted, because anyway the recruiter is going to ask. You're absolutely fine. Yes, exactly. The same goes for the work experience. Make it complete, make it clear. Not everybody knows the name of the company where you were working, and they don't have an idea if it's a 2-people company or a 2,000-people company. So try to put some few bullet points and detail everything that is relevant to your own experience.
Is it okay to put a link to it? Is it okay to put a link to that company that I'm looking at?
Yeah, totally. I mean, why not? Most of the time apply online. Your CV is gonna be seen on a screen. Why not making use of this? I think we will cover this later on. You can be a bit creative with your CV. The important thing is that it's complete and it's well structured and it's relevant. So let's get a deep dive into these different 4 components, and then I leave a little bit more space for the last one, the part of your private hobbies, achievement, and interests. As we said, it has to be well structured on the general information. You want to see that the education is complete. You want to see that the work experience list, everything. I'm going to run through the slides, but don't worry, they'll be available, as you know, so you can go back, and I encourage actually to go back, read them. We're going to have some more information also on the slide that we're not presenting today, but you can use for yourself. There's going to be a checklist, so go use them as a tool. They're there for you. I would actually like to leave more time for a conversation and a discussion and see some real example of CV and maybe talk about some of your concerns. So let me just really go quickly over those and jump on some example of possibly good CV and get your opinion on this. Can you read it? Can you see it well?
Yes, good.
Okay. So just take a couple of minutes to go through this CV and then we'll talk about it. And I would like to know from you, what do you think, if it's well done or not, what you noticed.
Could I say something about it?
Just one second. Let everybody go through the whole CV and then.
While you're going through and looking at this too, like another really interesting thing to do, I mean, we're definitely going to do a nice full critique of it, but imagine that you're Andrea, right? And you have about, what, 20 seconds, 30 seconds? And this is how much time like we might spend on a CV. So something has to jump out at you, right, in that 30 seconds, as a recruiter. So ask yourselves that question too, as you just went through. What did you see? What even stuck out in your mind? And that's what's going to stick out in his mind too.
Okay,
so, anyways, that's all. It's a good point. Like, think about it that way. It's really interesting.
What were you saying?
I said blah, blah, blah.
The CV is a blah, blah, blah. Okay.
First thing, I think the country should not be mentioned, as you said. Kiev, Ukraine. I think this is
okay.
one of the things that you mentioned. Other than that, I see a very detailed, high qualified developer. I don't know how much is he qualified, but I think he has a lot of experience in development.
And in terms of how the CV is done?
This is what I saw.
Okay.
I think you should
Thanks.
put the dates with the outline, not underneath.
Okay, so yeah, we have the dates down here, and you will put it up here? Or?
Yeah, before the outline. March 2011 present.
Yeah?
Then iOS unique development.
Yes. Okay. Before here,
Yeah.
because it's connected to the role.
Exactly. And also, you're submitting an English CV. Why are you putting your applications only in Russian?
Where do you see it in Russian?
And it's on the second page.
On the second page, okay. Let's go look at that.
Oh, sorry, first page.
First page.
Yeah, here. Okay, you're putting your applications, that's cool. But
Yeah.
you're submitting them to an English company or American or whatever, and you're putting them in Russian. How are you going to understand that?
Well, I guess what she's saying, right, is that here it says it's only in Russian.
Russian
it's only
only.
paid.
The app that is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're sorry, yeah, I was taking the application as a CV, of course. Yeah, that's a good point. Let's start addressing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that. I mean, you have to go like 200 CVs or 100 CVs per. I mean, for the specific job. I mean, look at that CV. I mean, it's too much text. Too much text. I mean, to be honest, we receive these CVs every day, and we always focus for the headlines. Okay, he was a developer. He was a good admin guy. Okay, Mark. But this too much text. I won't believe even that's going to be like this.
That's a good point.
I think in the candidate information should be in the header and in big
Yeah.
role. So this is the first thing I need to know this person, the name and the contact information, email, and should be
Just
in the
to be
header.
precise, here
Yes, yeah.
I deleted, but there was the email and here the phone number, but that was all. Okay? So yes, that's another good observation.
I think maybe the objective should be bigger and more specific.
Okay?
Yeah,
More specific
yeah,
objective.
and without any mistakes.
Yeah. There was another hand. Here?
And timeline-wise, it doesn't flow. You see at first July 2010, and then there's March 2011. So it's you need to start with the most recent first, and then work your way back.
So it's actually, it has a sense, you know, the guy has worked from July 2010 till present, but only since March 2011 he was in this new role. But you're right, it doesn't flow. It's not something you can immediately capture. Okay, yeah, let's.
He didn't mention his education history. I mean, I think it's very important. I didn't see his education.
Okay.
I think it's down there.
Yeah.
I think this also raises a related point, which is that recruiters are really used to a pretty standard format, which we'll show you in a bit. And like, since this one's not in the standard format, we don't know exactly where to find all this stuff that we're looking for. Like, that's why you missed it, because it's not where you expected it to be.
Okay, let's do 3, 4 more quickly. Let's go around.
I just have a comment about the format. I didn't like it. I don't know why he's using a table. There's no need for a table or something.
That's going to be page spaces now.
Same?
Yeah, same thing. Yeah,
Okay.
table format.
And April is not consistent. Here it's APR 2000, and if you go up, it's APRI.
Yeah.
So there's no attention to detail.
There's also a lot of grammar and standards used.
Okay.
I personally, I know it's standard, but I don't believe the objective should be written. I believe it should be orally said in an interview. And if I want to say it or write it, I'll write it in a cover letter.
Okay.
With the detailed information.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Sorry, just as nobody looks at cover letters.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to be that harsh, but nobody reads cover letters. We don't have time.
Maybe you can
Okay.
see.
I would open a conversation on that
Yeah.
because I disagree.
I know, but you don't. You're so sweet.
Yeah.
You have a high volume. I'm a recruiter, so I don't go through this. I'm a sourcer, so I go look for you. It's very different. But
Just 1 second. They didn't get your answer.
Ah.
He's saying nobody looks at cover letters.
Oh,
And I firmly disagree with that. And we can open up on that.
take that off.
And
Yeah.
I'll say that I
But-
agree and disagree. Like, I don't look at a cover letter until after I look at the CV and I see something interesting, then I kind of maybe want to know what you have to say.
But what if
Well, that's
the
the point of the cover letter.
Yeah.
That if you
Okay,
really-
let's get another couple of.
what if the cover letter is only like 2 lines or 3 lines? That's actually presenting the objective.
Okay.
I mean, just
so
it's not a letter. It's just a kind of a 3 lines.
let me
I mean,
try
yeah, you
to,
can go for
to
it.
resume a little bit the
Exactly.
different inputs. I think we received. I can basically go out because you guys have noticed everything, right? So seriously, I mean. But it's very good. I'm very pleased that you noticed so many aspects because the poor guy here wrote 3 pages and has been working since 7 years. So it's not like he has never done this and spent time and so on. And nevertheless, we are seeing so many little mistakes that after a while probably couldn't recognize them. Common point, there's no counterpoint, the objective are not clear enough. So I don't have any understanding of his personal information. The objective here is very generic, as somebody said. It has to be more specific. If I look at this, finding a challenging position in a dynamic environment with a potential for growth doesn't say anything about why he's applying for this job, really, or why for this company. Nobody would write the opposite, right? Nobody would write finding a boring position in a static environment with no potential for growth. What would that? So actually putting objective might be a good idea. But if you're saying something relevant to the job, not if you're just stating something that is pretty much obvious, okay? And the rest, all the comments I think are valid. They're all very good points. And the bottom line of this is, as Matt was saying, I'm gonna open the CD and I'm gonna scroll through. And probably I'm also doing this exercise. I'm looking backwards. I'm looking at your education and I'm seeing if there's something more here, the words, and then I'm going up and seeing, okay, you've been a programmer, then a 3, okay, I see that you changed, you did a top chorus of the catalog, okay, fine, boom, going through the different position, and in 20 seconds, I sort of probably get my first idea, and then I'm gonna do it again in a couple of minutes and go deeper and read carefully and see what you were actually doing. Now that I got a picture of what happened with your career and your studies, I'm gonna really try to understand what makes it good. But to get to the second point, I need to have seen something on the first one. And you want to make sure that my attention goes where you want me to pay attention, right? So you actually have to write the CV not for you telling your story, but for me reading it. That's a shifting point. You're trying.
I was going to say, and when you see that, even leaving aside all the experience this candidate has, what do you think about him or her as like a person and the way that they're organized just by looking at the CV?
It's not good, of course. It's not good. It's
makes you think they're disorganized.
Yes.
Potentially.
Yes.
And for a suite, that's not good.
If it's a suite, it's not that good. If it's a program manager and this is, or somebody working in communication and this is the CV, that's a problem, right? If somebody is writing their detailed, oriented, and then there's spelling mistakes or April written in one way different to the other, that's a big problem. Okay, let's have a look at something else now. We'll do the exercise again for another one. Okay, same thing here. I give you a couple of moments to go through. Okay, so you warm up, I'm sure you were faster this time. What is the first impression?
It's more
On the back, there was somebody. Yes?
Two things actually. Picture, actually it's way too big. Then the covering, I think it's almost half of the page. And second, you don't need a signature in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the layout is actually more better than the previous one, but still it's consuming. It's actually consuming. And third thing, like I've just noticed the education and the work skills. They are not in the row. I think so. I have just seen the some of the work skills after educations and IT skills or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There was a good point. 1 second, there was a.
I think it's well structured, and I like the signature idea at the end. I mean, it's creative a bit.
Okay.
It gives off a good vibe.
Okay. Anybody else?
Also the font, you could say it is categorized in a good way. So the previous one, it is some parts taken out.
Okay, so you're saying this is one, sorry, let's point it. This is one font here in bold, then you have another level with it italic and a logic, then you have another one, but this is basically consistent. If we go up, we find the same logic with the jobs, right? You have the bold, or let's take it here, bold, then italic, then the bullet points. Okay. Yes?
I think it's too long and too detailed.
Okay.
I mean, if I read it, what's the point of having it? Everything is there. There's no suspense or.
Okay.
But kind of not fascinating, kind of not actually turning you.
Well, a couple more comments.
I think he is the operation guy.
There is?
He is the operation guy.
Okay.
Regarding to the 4 elements, you mentioned that first. I think it matches the 4 elements.
Okay, there's everything. There's contact, there's education, careers, education, and interest, and other.
Also like how the dates are consistent.
Okay. So yeah, 2 points here that sticks to my mind. First of all, although we can make a lot of observation on a general level, this is much better than the one we've seen before, right? And again, it's consistent, the format is correct, it's easy to read, it's well spaced, it's detailed, the objectives are more specific, so all those points are taken care of better. Nevertheless, we can still have a discussion. Do I put a signature or I don't? Is this appropriate? Should there be the picture or not? And similar to actually the conversation we were having about the cover letter, there will always be a certain amount of different personal opinion and different formats. And I think that's fine, actually. You can be creative and express yourself a little bit through this. And also, keep in mind, for example, this is a CV of a German lady applying in Germany. And in that environment, it's actually quite common to put a more detailed profile and actually put a bigger personal photo. So for that environment, I think it's appropriate. In others, probably it's something you can skip. I think the signature is something not needed, you're right, but doesn't harm, gives a sort of personal touch. It's actually nice. The same is with the cover letter. This is a big topic on its own, but I think the point of the denouement is, especially for a technical role, we want to see the hard facts first, because they're going to be decisive. So if you're applying for a software engineer and you've never done code, you don't list the code, your let's say the coding languages or your university degree, there's no cover letter that can change this. While if you're applying for a communication role, well, probably the cover letter is much more important. I'm going to look at the CV first, but then I'm going to have a look at all the information you send me. And if there is some story to tell, something that qualifies you, then yes, please let us know. Make it very short, make it very down to the point, because we're not going to have time to read why you're loving the company and it's so good. No, it's for the job. Is somebody saying yes or no? This person needs to go to an interview. So very down to the point, your experience matching the job. And the guideline is the job description you're going to read, the information you can collect about the company.
And keep in mind too on that point that you are applying to a specific job. There was a job description. The way we do it, we have like requirements for the job, like required qualifications and preferred qualifications. And the first thing the recruiter is doing, they sort of memorize these things. And when they're going through a CV or even a cover letter, they're just checking the box if you have those things or not. So make that very, very clear to us. And if I would say probably the biggest reason that people don't get accepted to a particular position is they don't meet the minimum qualifications.
Yeah.
So if you don't meet the minimum qualifications, as soon as we see that, boom, you're out. We have so many CVs, we just reject them. So really, and in the cover letter as well, it's about showing us and demonstrating to us why you are a good fit for us, not like why you would like working here, but more about like why you have the skills that we're looking for this particular position, and how do we know that? And that's your one opportunity to say that in a few words. So you really have to be very thoughtful about what you say there.
Now, because sometimes we receive a funny application, we thought of sharing some with you. What we said, I think, is sticks to every possible CVs, but sometimes your own interpretation, especially if it makes sense for the job, keep this in mind, it's also welcome. So let's have a look at some examples of different CVs, right? If you're applying for an advertising agency, maybe that's fine. But you still have your education here, your job experience, there's going to be contact data and all the rest in your application. If you're applying like this lady for a community manager, I'm sorry you cannot read with the interesting. It's relevant. This is another example. This is another example. Achievement, award, seminar, and so on. This is a project manager example. He put it on a sort of a timeline with all the different components. And again, it's a little bit small, but you can see the different components of the curriculum. This is another example, graphic designer. And again, few more where somehow made sense. I'll end up with this one. This is a guy that applied for, not at Google actually, this one. This is a guy that applied for a job at the subway in Paris, okay? So as you can see, that's some of the subway lines, and he used it to talk about his professional experience, his own achievement, and his competencies, and the counterpoint is down here.
You definitely remember that as creative as these are, you're going to find the same information that you would find in like a standard CV. Yeah. So, I mean, make sure you master that format first maybe before you go crazy with this, but you're still going to see the same information because it's still the same thing that you know, you could be as creative as you want, but if you're not meeting the minimum qualifications, you're still not going to get the job. So keep that in mind.
So this could be acceptable.
I think it depends. If you're applying for the job operation manager, it's irrelevant that you do the CV like this, okay? It's eye-catching for 1 second. And the moment after, I'm looking at the content. And so I don't really care that you do like this. The fact that you're creative is probably sort of good for you, but not for me wanting to hire you. But if you're applying to a job where being able to do this and show that you can do things differently and still communicate well and so on, wow, that's a fantastic CV, you know? So if it makes sense, if through this you send an information that it's useful to get you the job, then yes. If you just think I'm gonna be creative because then my CV stands out, no, probably not. Yes, I'm gonna say, wow, nice, and I'm gonna reject it 1 second after. Because if the information and the content is not there, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great example of how to customize your resume. You know, and every single resume you send out has to be customized for that job, for that company. You can't send out a generic resume and then attach cover letter and then expect the cover letter to be the customized version. That resume needs to be you, your character, and why you're going to be a benefit to that company and why you're going to grow, why it's going to be a benefit to you. So, yeah, it must be customizable to every single job application. You cannot just send a generic one.
So for example, we said I joined Google about a year ago. And before joining, I did my CV again. And I was looking for a job, so I did for 2, 3 different prospective employers. And I actually more or less had the same template, but I changed my CV. And it's not about not saying through things, because of course you have to be able to demonstrate them afterwards. So if you put, if you exaggerate, you're not going far. You might have an interview, but you're not going far, right? But in a couple of pages, some of my experience was more relevant for this job at Google than for other jobs. And so I changed my CV. You might want to change the order. The more experience you get, or in the beginning, maybe the university or the qualification are more important. This is not the case at Google. It might be the case with another employer. You want to put them on top and your experience afterward, or play a little bit with it as far as it matches what you want to communicate. It is easy to read for the other one and matches the culture of the company you're applying to. Just one more consideration. We said we review hundreds of CVs. It's actually literally millions at Google. This is, I think, the number of CVs we received a couple of years ago. And although we are hiring as much as we can, out of 2 million applying, of course, there's very few positions that get hired for it. So the CV is not going to be enough. Okay? We read all of them. Yeah. We don't have any. People don't believe this because it's Google, but actually there's no automatic system for reading CVs or pre-screening or attributing values or doing checking. No, that's a delicate and complex job, so there's a lot of recruiters that do read and screen all the CVs we receive, yes. Take a lot of time. So you have to go beyond, that's my message. I think we want to leave a little bit of time to simulate an interview, but after you have done your CV and that's complete, try to simulate an interview with somebody that knows about your professional career or that knows you. Take time to study the company. Take time to think if you have a profile online, that your profile online matches your CV. So Google your name. Check your profile on social network. Connect with people at the company where you want to work for because they're going to give you relevant information. Go this extra mile because this can completely change your the way you approach the interview and the way you also structure your application. As I mentioned at the beginning, we would like to do a little bit of a practice exercise with me and Damien. We thought we can just assume we have a marketing manager position, and if anybody of you would like to go for the job and interview for some 15 minutes with us, then we can benefit the experience for everybody. So anybody is up for a marketing interview? You? Yeah? Come over. Yeah, or, you know, I just... Yeah, thanks. Here, we use this. Okay. So, have a seat. What's your name?
Mark.
Did I pronounce it right? Mark?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm Andrea. Have a seat. What we will do is, let me come here. What we'll do is, I play a little bit the role of the recruiter that initially get in contact with you, and then if things go well, you'll have a chance to be interviewed directly by a marketing expert that is Damien here on my side.
I hope so.
Okay, good. And just for the audience, we're going to play in and out of the question and the interview so that it's clear that, for example, we assume he knows the job very well. This is a marketing manager for YouTube in the region. Okay? Okay? Think about it. It's YouTube and you're doing marketing. Okay? And of course, we assume I have seen his CV and it's good enough as qualified, no? So first of all, thanks very much for volunteering, coming here. And although I reviewed your CV, it would be nice if you can tell us in a very short, compiled way what your experience is, your background studies.
Actually, it's I don't know where to start, so I will start from the college. First of all, I'm in high school, so I'll try to manage it. I study at Harvard. Okay. I study marketing and I work for Google. No, first I graduated in 2018.
Okay.
So I started to work
8.
2000, no, 18. In the future. So I can.
No. Okay. No. Stop.
Okay.
You graduate.
In
reality, did you graduate already?
No, I'm still in high school.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay. So. Perfect. Okay.
I worked with Google.
It's enough. You graduate at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move to the next question. So you're applying for the YouTube position in this region. Why?
I think YouTube is a very important resource for this region. I mean, Middle East. For the world, if you saw the Middle East is don't have the resource to contact with other people in the whole world. So YouTube is very excellent resource to us to communicate with another people with another.
Okay, very good. And where do you think will be YouTube in 10 years? What do you think will be the impact, the situation with YouTube in 10 years?
Actually, I have a lot of dreams if I was in the marketing on YouTube. I mean, I think YouTube will go to the high. I mean, it will be a huge success especially for the Middle East. You know, we have a lot of talents here.
How? What would be the success for YouTube in the Middle East? Just give me one example.
One example, like the shows the Saudis are doing, like actually, like this start area earlier. Sorry, my English is.
It's perfect. I can understand you. Don't worry.
So, like actually, I think 200,000 subscribers with actually a huge number. I mean, he started to make his shows. I mean, before 2 months or 3 months. It's a good number actually. So think of if everyone in this region start to make a video or a clip. So think about the huge number which shows. And not only for this region, we will start when we all communicate with each other. We start to go to the whole world.
I see that. It's a very good point. And let's assume we say in your role actually you have to grow by 20% the number of videos of playback next year. And you have to launch a marketing campaign for doing this. How would you go about it? What would you do first?
First, I will select a very good team. The team is very important to start a good work. I mean, if you don't have a good team to help you, you can't do this work. So the first thing, a good team.
What is a good team? How do you find a good team? What are you looking for?
A good team to be creative. They can work with each other. So I don't want a team, everyone work alone. So we have to be like the bees, one home, you know.
Okay.
And a team that have a lot of thoughts and not thoughts on paper. I want these thoughts to come out of the paper. So we start.
Okay, I'll interrupt you just because we don't have that much time, but otherwise we could discuss this a little bit more in detail. Imagine you are responsible actually for the moment for YouTube, everything in Saudi, and you just receive an email by Larry, by our CEO, that says, I heard that there is a problem with YouTube in Saudi. What is going on? What do you do? This is pretty difficult if you don't have work experience, of course, but just give your guess.
First, I will gather my team and tell them what happened. The CEO that just talked to me about the problem. I see where is the problem from. I start to, you know, see where is come and start to write solution.
Okay.
What's the best solution?
So you talk to your team and you ask them if they know, and what do you ask for? What kind of information are you looking for?
I ask if anyone know where the problem from. I mean, does anyone know it will happen before that, or anyone?
Any other possible information you're looking, not from your team, from something else?
Yeah, I will talk also with actually your team. We'll call. I don't know. I think
call you because they're not calling you.
Okay.
Maybe I will set by myself to see if they're
Okay, that's a second one. We could go on. There's possible more sources, and again, I'm shortening a little bit. So I have one last question for you. What do you think we should improve in YouTube?
Let me check.
Do you have any ideas of what could be better?
Actually, right now, I don't.
Okay.
I
I would, in a normal situation, I would definitely push and talk a lot about this, and eventually about other products of Google, if you use them, why you use them, what you find good, what not, and pushing actually to go over and over and over and over, and see how far you can go and how long you can keep with thinking for innovation. Let's assume that this was a full 45 to an hour interview, and that I'm happy with the answer you gave, and so in this case actually we will pass it on for a further more specific interview. Typically this first one could take place on a hangout or simply on the phone, and the second one will be, as we said in the beginning, part of the face-to-face interviewing with 4 people in different offices, different roles, that try to understand your abilities from different point of view. And in this case, I leave it to Damien. No, wait. There's the second one. It's hard to get a job. You have to earn it. Also to get a mic, you have to earn it. Thank you. 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, I'm basically just going to welcome and well done for getting so far. Very happy. So we generally would have a bit of a discussion, calm you down a bit, you know, because obviously everything's going crazy. So we relax you a bit and you talk a bit about yourself, and then I start hitting you with some hard questions, and I say something to you. So what file format does YouTube use? Can you tell me the different kinds of formats that you have? I'll give you a video format. So do you know video formats? So like, let me give you one. I'll give you an example. One example is FLV. That's an audio format. So what could be a video format? Or MP3 is an audio format. So what video format did you have?
The first thing, MP3, I think it's very important.
For audio, that's audio.
Yeah, audio. WVM, I think so.
WVM?
Yeah.
That's what you can upload, exactly.
The QuickTime. MP4 also, the QuickTime.
QuickTime, so brilliant. Anyway, we would carry on talking a bit about that, and I bring out the technical aspects of these video formats. And then I would say to you, okay, given the market here, you know how YouTube works in your market, so in South Africa, what would you add to the service to improve it for your market specifically? Where would you focus on to make the service really valuable for your people?
And the education.
Okay.
I think education would be a good start.
How would you educate people?
Listen, I mean, I'm in school and sometimes there is a lesson I don't know. So when I go to search in Arabic, I don't find a lot of search. So, but even if I saw, it will be written, not in YouTube. So I'm thinking, what if there was a video clip about lessons? It will really be helpful for a student. Actually, you can learn and watch at the same time and listen.
So provide an educational platform within YouTube that can teach you about various things, obviously, not just YouTube itself.
Actually, also in the jobs, right now, if I have like this camera, I can put it on YouTube so the others can also take the chance to learn from you. I mean, we are very lucky to be here. A lot of our friends outside, they couldn't come here. So it was on YouTube, it will be very amazing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Actually, that was very, very nice of you. You were very brave to come on stage and be a little bit grilled by us. What have we done? What kind of question did we ask? We asked about his technical knowledge. We asked about his creativity. We put him in a concrete situation, in a practical situation, and we asked him to solve a problem about something that eventually he doesn't really know well. He doesn't know the environment, he doesn't know the company, it doesn't matter. We asked about that. So it was about the role, it was dealing with YouTube, it was dealing with marketing planning, it was dealing with his ability to reason about something unknown, to show his technical knowledge, to also show his passion, his interest. He said a couple of very nice things. I have a dream that I would go for education because this is relevant for me and the audience, and I think this is a good idea, and so on. That's actually a very good aspect. But then, of course, you have to also know all the answers and the technical skills, and probably done some of it in the past and so on. But that's pretty much the frame of what we would do in an interview. And hopefully after the 4 opinions are collected, this is just very specific to Google. We run all the interviews trying really to have a varied mix of people getting in touch with you, and also to give you the chance to learn from the company from different people. So actually in the interviews, in every session, there's always a time dedicated to your questions and what you want to know about the company, about the job, and how other things that the job should be done. And typically when this is successful, we have a couple of committees, because we don't want to have just one office or one manager to judge. We want to really try to have the same process fair to everybody worldwide. So we have different committees of other people that review all the work done, review all the questions asked, the answer provided, and think, first of all, if everything was done in the proper manner, if it was hard enough, not too hard, good question, good answers. And then we have a second committee that looks at all of this and really tries to see if that is the best possible matching between what Google needs and what you have. And sometimes, believe me, it ends up that actually they say, this person is great, but we should actually put it on the other job, because the other job is better. And also comes out that the candidate maybe comes with ideas and changes and says, I thought it was more about this, but actually I understand it's more about that, and I care about the second aspect. And so sometimes we keep the, let's say, the progression a little bit fluid, that we can see and adjust to the information that arrives through the interview.
One other thing I want to add to, 2 related points that I think will be true for both the CV portion and interview portion, that are somewhat more specific to Google. And the one is that we are very much a data-driven company. So on your CV, you want to like think about everything you've done, whether it's outside the classroom, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's at work, and think of a way to quantify what you've achieved and what the impact was. So if you're in a sales role, you want to talk about how much revenue you've generated, how much growth you've generated, maybe how many people that you've managed. If you won a business paying competition, how many competitors were there? If you have a scholarship, how many scholarships were there? Things like that. Think about ways to quantify. And then when you're in an interview setting, you want to think about, like, this YouTube question is a great example. How would you measure your success, right? So we asked you to think creatively about how to come up with a solution to a problem, and maybe you have never thought of this question, maybe you don't even have experience, which does not necessarily mean that you can't work at Google, but you have to come up with a way to measure whether this plan you're telling us about is actually going to work. Like, how do we know that you achieved what you set out to achieve? And the other thing is, and this is true on the CV, but also interview skills, is that Google looks for personality as well. So we're going to ask you about like what your passions are in life, what do you do outside of work, what do you really care about, because we actually want to know that stuff too. So we didn't get a chance to sort of cover that, but I always ask in my interview, like, what do you, I see here on your CV you said you like skiing or whatever. I'll ask you about that.
Always. Yeah. There's a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Are you going to looking for the person in the social media, what he wrote, what he said about?
Eventually.
For example, in Twitter,
I think
Facebook.
it's not a standard process, not every time, but yes, for sure. The information is there, and we are going to look. But actually, something we didn't say is that before you get approved, we always ask for a couple of references. If you're a student, from your professors. If you're a professional with experience, we get in touch with somebody to work with you, and we talk a little bit with them. Of course, with your agreement and with people you tell us to talk with, right? Because it's to be transparent. Any other questions?
Say hi, Google. Say hi.
We're hiring. We're hiring a lot. We're hiring several thousands of people around the world at the moment.
You're
Yes.
asking whether he get. Whether
He's hired.
we have to confer because it's a group decision. No, that's
I was going to put it on.
If I can just add maybe one last thing is we cover how you prepare your CV, then you dig into the company, you look at this, you try to match, then you prepare for the interview, you simulate the interview, then you actually go into the interview itself. And you have to do one last thing, that is take care of your own emotions. You're going to be nervous, you're going to be worried, and so on. Take time, don't neglect this, because this has a big impact actually. So take time. I don't know if you want to go for a walk, if you want to drink a coffee, or just take time and relax, go for a run, whatever. Calm down, breathe, go into the interview, don't rush, take the time to think your answer. Maybe you're not 100% sure of your answer, but you can definitely say something, have some experience that help you answer the questions you're asked. Think of what they're really asking. Don't answer what you know, answer to what was asked. And and just take your time to structure your answer and get to the point. And hopefully that make it for you. Okay. I think if there's no other question or anything comes up to your mind later on,
According to your experience, do you remember some funny or some catchy phrase attributed to the entrepreneur?
Catchy phrase.
Catchy phrase.
Catchphrase. No, I would say be spontaneous.
Or just be serious?
No, be spontaneous. Be spontaneous. It's of course it's a formal situation, but it has to be also an interesting conversation for you. You are there to learn something about the company, and the company to learn about you. So it's a formal situation. Just be relaxed and be direct.
I mean, do your research on the company. So if you really know the company and you've integrated the way they think and the products they have, like your answers are going to come out with the right, phrasing.
What are the entrepreneurial skills that you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of, how do you demonstrate these entrepreneurial skills, right? I mean, look, the classic way is maybe you started your own company or initiative or website. I mean, this is a very obvious way to show that you have entrepreneurial skills. But not everyone has done that. So it can be through coursework. It can be through starting another kind of organization, a club or a community organization. If you started a GTUG, or you've even taken things like the ambassador program for students, right? Like, this is a very open position. You're given the reins, do what you want with it, and if you do something successful, this shows you work. This was a blank canvas where you had lots of room to do something creative and to make it what you will, and you did it. And you quantify it. Like, if you're an ambassador, you can say, over the course of the year, I hosted 12 events. No one told you to do that, you just did it. That's being entrepreneurial.
Can even be in your own job in your own company.
Yeah.
I'm assigned to this task, but actually I saw this opportunity and I started an activity there. I led a project. I've driven some achievements, So something where you took responsibility, you led it, you thought about it. You can show it in different ways, I think.
Thank you.
How much is the dress when you're going for an interview? How much the dress code matters? I mean, I have seen people who are shivering in front of me, wearing their own stuff, and they can't. Some of them, like, you are living in a desert right now in Saudi Arabia, and some of them wear a suit or something, and actually they are shivering right now from the heat or whatever it is. But how much, in your prospectus, how much the dress matters?
It depends a lot on the company, I think. If you look at Google, we clearly ask you to come as comfortable as you can. We clearly send you an email saying, we don't care about how you're dressed. We care about what you will answer. So just come the way you like, okay? For other companies, it might matter because it's expressing a sort of a sign of respect, okay? And I think you really have to look at the culture of the company. And eventually just ask, because this is actually something you can ask of the recruiter. Don't assume. If you can ask something, do it. They should tell you. I mean, it's a very good question. It's absolutely legitimate.
Especially if like everyone probably, if you've done your research, you'll know Google's a casual company. So it's a very good question. It shows that, hey, I know that you guys are casual, but do you want me to come in casual, or should I wear a suit?
But like, aside from the casual side, do you have to like focus on the weather environment or anything? For example, if you are being like tight in the jeans and something like this, but you are you're doing an interview in the middle of Riyadh or something, and which is totally desert, okay? So you are, apart from the company, how much like saying like, okay, I feel comfortable, I come in a t-shirt, or I feel comfortable when I come in a suit and the tie on the top. I think this is the most thing matter. I mean, no matter what the company is actually focusing on, the company actually prefers the suit guy or the jeans guy. Yeah. Or the company something else. But I believe like the much you are comfortable while you are speaking over there, while you are sitting over there, yeah, and talking to the guy, I think this is what the matter is.
Yeah.
How do you express it?
I think the point is still the same though. Like, I mean, you have to use judgment. I guess if you're ever really, really in doubt, you should do what's common in the local environment where you're interviewing. So if it's in Saudi and there's a certain outfit that you should be wearing, you should probably err on the side of doing that. And then you could ask them, hey, is it all right if I wear something different or whatever? That's what I'd recommend. Yeah, I think that's a good question.
Yes?
I think you should know about the last one.
Sorry?
I think you should know about the last one.
Yeah.
It's a small position. You can have someone without CV. Without the
yeah. It doesn't, unfortunately, it might, it doesn't apply to Google, but I know that maybe there's ways to do that in other places. Yeah. I've lost it. Okay. We'll look that up. Yeah, we'll think about it for Google. Okay.
Yeah. I think we're going a little bit over on your break time, so thank you everybody.
Thank you.